Gay, and I have always been gay.
I don't know why, but ever since I was really young, I thought I'd never have a problem making money.
Nuestro especial con David Bowie empieza a las 21 horas con la historia de. Luego, a las 22 horas, disfrutaremos en Mundo del Espectáculo el concierto del padre del glam. Ey, a mi mundo.
I spend a lot of my time on stage going, thank you.
Look at that, you point and there's coffee.
That's star power. That's because I'm a rock god. Rock god's coffee. Thank you, miss.
We should get someone to blow on it for you.
It's so cool,
You're
yes.
not going to blow on that yourself, are you?
Somebody got to blow this? You made me say that.
David Bowie's career has encompassed the realms of music, art, film, and the internet. He has made a career of continually reinventing himself. His influence on 3 decades of music is undeniable. He has come to symbolize modern rock as a format in which literacy, art, fashion, sexual exploration, and social commentary can be rolled into one. While in Toronto with the Area 2 Festival, we sat him down to help tell the story of David Bowie.
There was a line in the bio that kind of made me laugh.
Oh, a lot of the bio made me laugh.
It talked about how at this stage you're continually reinventing yourself at such a breakneck pace.
Oh, I don't know what that means. Do you have any idea what that means?
I kind of do, but the odd thing is, you were doing that 30 years ago. They're making it sound like this is a new thing.
Well, you know, I'm not quite comfortable with that way of putting things. I think what it really is, I mean, the subject matter that I write about, I feel is fairly consistent and has been over the years. It's always about the same thing. It's a kind of a separateness, isolation, a sense of anguish. So there's some fear in there. A little bit of misery. The miserables. Really, isolation, I guess, sums it up. And that's been really consistent for 30, 35 years. It's just that my way of approaching it changes virtually from year to year. I just try and approach probably the same questions in a different way each time. I don't know why, but ever since I was really young, I thought I'd never have a problem making money, whatever I did. So really, it was a choice of what was I going to do for it, and I just had a passionate affair with music. It was a very amorous affair with music.
This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door.
David Bowie was born David Robert Hayward Jones in Brixton, England, January 8, 1947. He released some singles in the mid-60s as David Jones, both as a member of numerous bands and a solo artist with little success. By 1966, another Davy Jones of the Monkees had beaten him to stardom, forcing a name change.
Yeah, it was David Jones and then the other lot came up. I tell you what, you want to follow that one up. Before then, I had one week where I was Tom Jones. I still got the photographs to prove it.
Is it true that the London debut, people booed in '69, I guess?
Oh, yeah. I was booed frequently, but usually it came in concert with cigarette butts being thrown at me as well.
That predated spitting, I guess.
Yeah, it was the equivalent. But I seemed to do an awful lot of the wrong gigs with the wrong crowd at that time. Took me a few years to get that right. It got right when I made my own crowd.
David Bowie's self-titled debut was released in 1967, with his breakthrough coming 2 years later, 1969's Space Oddity.
Planet Earth is blue and there's nothing I can do.
I rushed into my curiosities as a human being that a lot of them were kind of, I guess, considered taboos. There were things that most people would leave alone and not bother with and not really want to investigate because it might be a bit... The results of investigating them might be quite dodgy.
1972, that's when you told Melody Maker, I am gay, and I have always been gay.
That's right.
Because you said that was the most provocative thing to say at that time.
Well, it was. And, of course, it was true at the time. I mean, I was really pushing myself into every situation that I could, and bisexuality was definitely one of the greatest taboos at the time, so therefore it was something that I really wanted to know more about.
The early 70s would prove to be Bowie's most prolific and innovative period. Between 1970 and 1973, he would release 5 groundbreaking albums, with 1972 marking the debut of his influential Ziggy Stardust character. Ziggy was an image that would become an androgynous sex symbol. The songs had the pop simplicity of glam, hook-filled mass appeal, but lyrical depth that worked across the whole spectrum of modern music. Bowie had positioned himself as the linchpin of the glam revolution, bringing glam to millions and giving it artistic credibility and a solid image.
The characters throughout the years, as much as you've tried to get away with them, people like me will always bring them up.
I know, damn you.
They're so
Damn all of you.
They're so firmly embedded in pop culture.
They were quite good, some of them were quite iconic. I think, really, you know, when I started, I was deathly shy about performing, and for me, the characterization of something seemed to give me a way of interpreting the songs without having to kind of, you know, be out there nakedly myself. But Ziggy was sort of half-baked, but he probably should have been a musical. And that's where I was going with it. But of course, needless to say, 6 months out on the road, I was fed up with the damn thing and wanted to move on to, you know, Christ, what am I going to be, bloody Ziggy for the rest of my life? You know, it's costing me a fortune in a hair dye. The audience reaction was just unbelievable for the Ziggy shows. I mean, we had a good audience reaction in Europe. In fact, probably the Ziggy thing started there first, but it certainly was taken over, engulfed by the reaction in America.
As a 14-year-old kid, you saw that for the first time. It was so different to anything else, and he wasn't scared to just try to do something really outrageously different and be himself, but at the same time, they were fantastic songs.
The thing that got me about Bowie, I was 12 when I heard Starman, it was the fact that he frightened parents, but he wasn't frightening. It wasn't like Alice Cooper, who really did put her shits up people. You know, Bowie was just this like, my God, he's wearing makeup. And I found it fascinating that he was such a threat to people over 35.
I think it was very playful in the beginning. It was playful and it was camp and it was just over the top with Ziggy. I used to be able to stop traffic quite easily by just walking down the street. No more than that, just because I had long hair.
For the longest time, you dealt in illusion on the stage in the form of characters, and for the longest time as well, the audience had a hard time separating the artist from his creations. And I think it can be said in the 70s as well that you had that problem.
This could be said. I hoped that it had been put to rest in 1976, but it did follow me around for a long time.
What freedom did it ultimately give you to just be David Bowie on stage and not a character?
I felt that it did a lot better for my off-stage life to not carry a character around, because I would get very method about it in the earlier days, and I would carry the character through to my everyday life.
Coming up on the story of David Bowie.
Fame? What is it good for? Absolutely all.
Rebel, rebel, your face is a mess. Rebel, rebel.
viendo la historia de David Bowie. La historia de las estrellas de la música que se confiesan.
We're fun.
I don't feel bad ever. I know I will.
You gotta go on. You gotta move on.
Stop. No. At the top.
It was suddenly a different kiss goodnight.
Singer Ali killed in a plane.
Don't treat me like a criminal.
She was like the weirdo in the family.
Piss off.
I'm one of Britain's stately homos.
I just never lost faith.
Todos los domingos a las 21 horas te enterarás de más detalles de tus cantantes y grupos musicales predilectos. Un espacio para fanáticos. La historia de...
S60R ahora en México. Alcanza uno. Volvo for Life.
Más allá de las palabras, más allá de los hechos, está la verdadera noticia. En el 2004, E&E Mundo sigue en busca de la verdad, al traer en exclusiva para Latinoamérica los programas periodísticos 2020, Prime Time y 60 minutos. De lunes a viernes a las 23 horas, E&E Mundo va más allá de las noticias. Ellos pueden ser feroces y escurridizos, pero estos cazadores están preparados para todo.
You never know when you're going to get that key shot.
Los domingos a las 20:30 horas tienes la oportunidad de atrapar las presas más exclusivas junto a los más audaces paparazzi. Por E&E Mundo. Continúa la historia de David Bowie.
Your mother in the world, she's not so you're a boy or a girl. Oh yeah, hey, hey, your hair's all right.
David Bowie demonstrated remarkable skill for perceiving musical trends in the early to mid-70s. While bringing glam music to millions, he continued to release records at a breakneck pace. Around the time of 73's Aladdin Sane and 74's Diamond Dogs, he also produced Lou Reed's Transformer, wrote and produced Mott the Hoople's All the Young Dudes, and produced Iggy and the Stooges' Raw Power.
Why do you think you're a good collaborator?
I think I enjoy what I'm doing, and I enjoy watching other people enjoy it as well. I mean, that's something that really it's a real high. You know, you really feel as though you're contributing to somebody else's life if you can see that they have been really happily surprised with something that they've done, that they've contributed to.
Well, now I'm worth $1 million in prizes.
David's friendship with Iggy Pop allowed the two to work together again. In 1977, he would produce and co-write Iggy's comeback records, The Idiot and Lust for Life.
When you collaborate with Bowie, who does what?
It varies. He might come to me with a concept, like, listen, what do you think about a song, Lust for Life? What does that phrase mean to you? And then he'll go in his room and do the music, and I'll go in my room and do the words, and then put it together later. All different ways, really.
David and Iggy co-wrote China Girl for Iggy's The Idiot album. David would re-record and release their composition 6 years later.
My little China girl, you shouldn't mess with me.
What is it that makes him such a good collaborator and producer?
I think it's because he's brighter than most of them and more interested in the world outside music and kicks.
King of New York himself, Mr. Lou Reed.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time.
You know, he's a wonderful guy. I really like him a lot. Really talented.
Besides Iggy and Lou, David has collaborated with Trent Reznor, Stevie Ray Vaughan, The Cure's Robert Smith, Pete Townsend, Mick Jagger, Queen, John Lennon, and others. David's 1975 hit Fame, originally from the album Young Americans, was co-written with John Lennon. John also plays guitar and sings on the album.
The whole essence of Fame, you know, the fact that you can put yourself up on the stage before 400,000 people and suddenly become vulnerable. And I remember that for the Young Americans album, you wrote that song Fame with John Lennon.
Yeah.
To me, paid the ultimate price and was the ultimate victim of Fame.
Yeah.
How do you deal
What's the question?
How do you deal with that in the 1980s? After a tragedy like that as well.
It's a subject I wouldn't even comment on.
There was no handbook for Fame, and you had to learn as you went.
Fame? Now this... What is it good for? Absolutely fuck all. Fame. Fame, I wouldn't give it tuppence for it. Fame, celebrity, all that stuff is absolute nonsense and really is a hindrance to everything that one wants to do. It's the worst thing about it. I would have loved to have been able to do everything that I have done and be totally faceless.
A combination of fame, money, and Bowie's quick-to-experiment personality would lead to cocaine use. A drug-addled detachment from reality would prove too much, and by the decade's end, he would be clean.
As drugs started to take a more severe hold on my life, the ability within your conscious mind to actually deliver yourself into two separate parts disappears and the lines blur, and it's only this one formless mutant that's left behind. So it gets quite messy in there, gets very messy in there. And by the mid-70s, I was so out of my gourd that really it was very impossible. It was all nigh on impossible for me to function in any rational way. I saw an X-ray of what the brain looks like after continual coke use. It's terrifying. It looks like cheddar cheese. It looks like Swiss cheese. Great huge holes everywhere. Not my head. I haven't yet had that done. But a head, it's terribly worrying because it sort of really points up where memory lapses are and whatever. And these holes never heal. You can do the most extraordinary, irreparable damage. Oh, if only I'd known it was my own prison that I'd formed around myself, what with my own sort of way of life in terms of drugs and everything. I'm so grateful that I found a key to be able to unlock myself from that without too much damage to my psyche. Naturally, I would advise my son not even to think about it, because I know the inherent dangers of doing it. Somehow or other, I went through a whole series of survivals and crawled out of it all.
Still to come on, the story of David Bowie.
I think every time I do something new, I just pretend I don't have any audience whatsoever, so that I'm totally free of any expectations from anybody. I kind of go in like that, and when I've done it, then I get trepidatious. Then I go, ooh,
Just for one day, we could be heroes.
Estás viendo la historia de David Bowie. Son expresivos, comprometidos, emprendedores, son luchadores, divertidos y sobre todo famosos. Ellos son nuestra gente en biografía. En el 2004, nuestros estrenos son sorprendentes. A&E Mundo. En el 2004, la imaginación no tiene límites con Cinema. ¿Qué vas a sentir? Nuestros títulos son el comienzo de un año lleno de sorpresas. Las películas aclamadas por el público, las superproducciones con las críticas más exitosas. Cinema se muda a tu hogar todos los viernes y sábados a las 22 horas. Un espacio reservado a través de la gran pantalla de A&E Mundo. Las tradiciones culinarias de cada país nos viene del paladar del gran Duke Duda, que nos guía a través de una gastronomía generosa y tradicional. Con sus toques excéntricos, el sabor y sentir de cada tierra. En el 2004 recibimos a nuestros comensales con mucho gusto para aventurarnos en una apetitosa travesía. Un estreno de A&E Mundo, los viernes a las 20:30 horas. Continúa la historia de David Bowie.
Oh, with your kiss, my life begins. Oh, it's spring to me, all things to me. Don't you know your life itself?
I haven't adopted characters on stage since the Thin White Duke period at the Station in 1976. So it's rather a redundant kind of thing now to keep having to say, look, I might wear a smart suit and it might this time it'll be black. Last year it was red, you know, but that's about it. I almost exorcised that out of my system with the Low Heroes Lodger sequence. I felt reviewing things with Eno in that period that I really didn't need to adopt characters to sing my songs for me, that actually I could do them quite well on my own. And it was a confidence booster in that way.
Breaking glass in your room again.
David Bowie's growing cocaine-fueled paranoia forced him back to England, out of the lifestyle and environment of LA. In 1977, he left Britain to settle in Berlin, leaving his stage characters behind. He sobered up and began painting and studying art. He also developed a fascination with German electronic music. This resulted in his Berlin trilogy, Low, Heroes, and Lodger, 3 experimental albums driven by dissonant synthesizers and electronics. Some credit the new direction to producer Tony Visconti and musician Brian Eno.
The stuff he did with Brian Eno, I think, was fantastic, and Low was a record I really enjoyed. Yeah, I also enjoyed the fact that Nick Lowe, around that time, put out, when Bowie made the record Low, Nick Lowe made a record called Bowie.
Yeah, looking back, I would say for me the trilogy of albums that I did with Brian Eno, that was the most satisfying. The thing that Brian always uses when I get a bit timid about the work that I'm doing, he says, don't forget that in music you can crash your plane and walk away from it, that art really isn't that full of life-threatening situations. What Brian is really good at, it's the way that he doesn't do anything, which coaxes the best performances out of the people that he's working with.
I wanted to make a kind of music that was like a landscape, you know, that invited the listener to enter, not with me as a guide, but said, here's the landscape, you find your way through it. He has a keen sense of conceptualism, and what he does better than anybody else I've met is he's able to frame something and give it a context. Brian
introduced me to a whole different system of writing at the time. I mean, I was really feeling stale in the mid-70s. I was physically, spiritually, and emotionally drawn. It's the best word I can use. And he really sort of filled me back up again with a new sort of inspiration for writing and how one can approach it and why one should approach it. I mean, Eno is an extraordinary person. Eno and I came up with what we call planned accidents. We'd put two pretty solid statements together and it would inevitably produce a third piece of information. And that's what you listen for. And when you take that third piece and you start playing around with that.
Me, being a diehard David Bowie fan, just because his approach to music has always been so amazing. You know, as a songwriter, he's phenomenal. As a singer, he's phenomenal. But also the fact that stylistically and aesthetically, he's always been remarkable. You know, in the mid-70s, when everyone else had, like, you know, was making prog rock and, you know, doing like 20-minute guitar solos, he's in Berlin making really cool electronic disco. You know, he knew what was going on before anyone else knew what was going on. It's pretty impressive.
That's what people should do. They should follow their real gut love of what they do, you know. There's nothing more, I think, embarrassing than watching somebody who doesn't love what they do, but does it because they believe that's the way they're going to be loved in this huge ephemeral way by the masses or something.
Would you describe yourself as fearless that way then? Because you've never done that.
Not really. I mean, everything I do with great trepidation. That's absolutely untrue. No, I don't do that. No, I kind of... I think every time I do something new, I just pretend I don't have any audience whatsoever, so that I'm totally free of any expectations from anybody. I kind of go in like that, and when I've done it, then I get trepidatious. Then I go, ooh, I shouldn't have done this. Nobody's going to like this at all. I know, I'll do a really arty album cover, then they'll like it.
There must be a tendency when you lock onto something that's fairly successful to almost fall into a formula.
That's why I always fought against that. And I've never done that, and I really see no reason to start now. I create something out of my enthusiasms at that particular moment. I get re-enthused by something else, and suddenly I don't see that anymore, and I'm over here. And that's the way I am. I've got a very short attention span. No attention span whatsoever. Not many of us have kind of got to this age and still be working in popular, or rather rock music. So there are some decisions to be made by some of us. One of the major ones is that do we continue in a sort of a Sinatra-type fashion and carry the baggage of our past with us? Or do we do something that prohibits that? For me, I now see that I've probably evolved into, devolved, some would say, into three ways of writing. One's very theatrically, one is a soundscape venture, and the other is straightforward songs. And I think each album I go into, it's one of those three principles that becomes the parameters for why we're going in, with little bits of the others. I like writing, firstly and foremostly. I would give my right arm, maybe not my right arm, I would give somebody's right arm if I could find somebody to sing all my songs for me. I really would. I'm very much of the opinion that it is the interpretation of the receiver or listener that creates that completes the album. When I listen to other people's work or look at other people's work, maybe, I really don't want to know what they want. I'm less and less interested in what their intention was. I'm far more interested in what my reactions are. But that's coming from the idea that art should be there to be used. I think it was Socrates that said, actually it was Plato, that the artist is positively useless because he can't explain how he does what he does. Therefore, why should anybody take any notice of what his subject matter is, because if he can't even explain how he does what he does, why should we put any faith in his actual statements when they do come out? And that really makes me feel inadequate, because I haven't a clue how or what I do. I don't know what I do. I don't know what I do. I just know I enjoy it. I think the assumption that I actually get what I do is maybe should be placed in doubt, because I mean, half of the fascination of the work that I do is that I don't fully understand it. I don't know what I do. I just know I enjoy it, and the end result often sends me spinning off somewhere, and it's kind of give myself little trips with the stuff that I write. Early 70s, where I would take 3 or 4 different subjects and intercut them, literally cut them up with scissors, and then sort them all in a big hat or something, and just pull out bits of phrases and put them together and see if it sparked any interesting ideas. And sometimes the phrases were so good, you could use them just as they came out the hat. Kind of stream of consciousness cut up the world and reassembled it, that kind of chaos, juxtapositions, fragmentation, to evaluate a truer picture of reality. That's what I really enjoy.
We are the Goon Squad and we're coming to town. Beep, beep. Beep, beep.
It's all about fashion in England. I can't tell you. It's all about the trousers. What did Bailey say about fashion? It was never about the clothes. I've worn some trousers probably that done their part in changing the world. My trousers have changed the world.
Reese has to elaborate.
Well, I think it was more the shoes.
It's the shoes.
There. He's got a package.
Still to come on the story of David Bowie.
I had a very bad 80s. Actually, I think everybody had a very bad 80s, didn't they? I particularly did.
Estás viendo la historia de David Bowie. Ellos pueden ser feroces y escurridizos, pero estos cazadores están preparados para todo.
You never know when you're going to get that key shot.
Los domingos a las 20:30 horas tienes la oportunidad de atrapar las presas más exclusivas junto a los más audaces paparazzi. Por A&E Mundo. En el 2004, A&E Mundo trae en estreno exclusivo para Latinoamérica a la verdadera Erin Brockovich, una mujer de película que ahora llega a la televisión para hacer justicia final.
Estas son historias reales sobre mujeres reales que obtuvieron una justicia final.
Erin Brockovich nos contará cómo estas mujeres se sobrepusieron al dolor y fueron capaces de hacer valer sus derechos frente a una corte. Todos los lunes a las 22 horas, A&E Mundo nos trae Justicia Final.
S60R ahora en México. Alcanza uno. Volvo for Life.
Shh, cállate, que la estoy filmando, ven, sígueme.
Acá traigo al enfermo. Yo le voy a poner la inyección. Yo le voy a dar el remedio.
Ellos tienen permiso para jugar al doctor. ¿Usted? No. No se automedique. Un consejo Cruz Verde.
Parece que lo disfrutas tanto como yo.
Es delicioso. Es un instante.
¿Qué te cautiva?
Es Es seductor.
Es maravillosa la lluvia.
¿La lluvia?
Nescafé Diplomat. Los mejores granos de las mejores regiones cafetaleras. Un café de altura.
¿Te gusta la lluvia?
Me encanta.
A mí no.
Nescafé Diplomat. Disfrutarlo es distinguirse.
El ensueño y la opulencia van de la mano. Hermosos jardines, estancias de ensueño. El dinero no es problema. La imaginación es el límite. Castillos de América. Recórrelos libremente. Todos los jueves a las 20 horas. Disfruta de su esplendor por A&E Mundo. Continúa la historia de David Bowie.
One can be tempted to glide along, you know, which is not a good thing. You know, I had a very bad 80s. Actually, I think everybody had a very bad 80s, didn't they? I particularly did, specifically from around 84 through till late 88. Those 4 years, in fact, which is, actually, looking back on my career, I was pretty lucky. I mean, that wasn't so bad. I know artists that have been through much rougher periods. I lost all confidence in what I was doing, and I hated what I was doing, actually. Quite quietly to myself. I didn't tell anybody else around me that I didn't think I was doing very good work. Specifically because it was selling really well, which is really embarrassing, you know, when the best things that would be like these, you know, albums that you don't really think much of, are incredibly big sellers, and it's like, oh, Christ. Adapting to the idea of being kind of mainstream, I found very difficult indeed. But looking at it in a fairly sober light, I felt that I could deal with it, you know, and I just couldn't. I was so beat by it, the whole three-ring circus thing about it, and trying to reach a wider and wider audience, you know, without any kind of feelings of artistic passion at all. I didn't really believe in the material I was doing. And indeed, some of it was very good material, but I just had lost the belief in myself as a creative artist. And I got introduced to Reeves Gabrels as a guitar player and just a good guy that I met. And he just very simply said, you've just got to stop doing this, you know, there's no way out. Just stop doing it. Do what you like doing. I said, but you don't understand. He said, yes, I do understand. I've read all the books. And that was it, really. And I just stopped doing it, you know, and I formed Tin Machine with the really quite clumsy idea that I could just disappear into a band anonymously. I found my exit from all that mainstream stuff through Tin Machine. I mean, that was my holy grail at the time. It was, this is the truth. I don't find it very exciting anymore, generally. I think it's got to get a lot more dangerous again. We're working on it.
David Bowie put his solo career on hold in 1989 to form Tin Machine. The band featured Reeves Gabrels on guitar and the sibling rhythm section of Tony and Hunt Sales. The band allowed Bowie the opportunity to return to his roots, touring small clubs and collaborating in what he asserted was a truly democratic creative partnership. They would release 2 studio albums in 1989 and 91.
Tribesmen just wouldn't live here. Fashion's flare is fashion you. You're dead, you just ain't better yet. Under the guard.
It wasn't until kind of 88, meeting Reeves Gabrels and forming Tin Machine, that I really felt that I was back on course, and things generally started to get back into sync in late 80s, 90s, and I felt excited again, you know. It was a very freeing experience. We'd started writing in a way that that was so reminiscent of the way that I used to write. It was very spontaneous, none of it was pre-written. The stuff was vibrant and exciting.
One thing led to the dead end. One step further away.
It actually worked for me as a vehicle for getting back to my own personal standards of writing and producing and all that. So I think it was one of the better things that I did. And to follow through from that, I've actually liked an awful lot of what I've done in the 90s. I'm really proud of that work. I did some very good work in the 90s. But I do start off with a clean slate every time. I really try and think, what is it I think now? What is it, where am I going? Philosophically, how am I looking at my life and the lives of others and how we live our life? That's kind of where I go from each time, I think. I kind of added on to this canon of things that I've developed that I like to harness their energies and the ideas from those things. Everything for me, from early rock, then through rhythm and blues, through early electronica, all those things I keep drawing upon.
After 93's sophisticated and soulful Black Tie White Noise, he would reunite with Brian Eno for 95's industrial techno-influenced Outside, a return to concept records featuring characters.
I'm so thankful that we're strangers when we meet.
When I was doing the characters in the early 70s, I think it was some problem for me about whether they were stage characters or recreating aspects of my life and taking it on stage, or whether the thing was evolving on stage and I was then pulling it back into real life. Now I think what I'm doing probably to protect my own sanity is that, in a way, it's a precaution. I guess instead of inventing just one character, I've invented about 7 or 8, and I think it enables me to retain the guise of an author, but at least I don't identify with them. The album is about atmosphere. It's about the sound of 1995.
In 1997, Bowie would push himself further into the post-grunge industrial world with the jungle-influenced Earthling.
Since the early 90s, I was really impressed by what was happening in London with this new music at that time called jungle. And I touched on it on the Outside album on a couple of tracks. And I wanted to kind of create a hybrid with jungle and rock.
I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't.
When the album first came out, there was a big hype surrounding the record as, you know, Bowie's now dabbling in drum and bass and techno. Dabbling. It's techno influenced. There's a great mix of the organic sounding guitars of Reeves.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what we're doing, what we're still doing, is really unlike anybody else. It's certainly influenced by dance vocabulary, and we would be the first to admit that, but we like that kind of, particularly the drum beat side of it, very much indeed. But I think what we're doing, the hybrid that we've created, is, I feel, a very positive direction for us to go as a band. And really, there's virtually nobody else doing it. Being 50, I want to see what you can do as a rock artist at 50. And everybody else can do what they want to do, but I know what I want to do, and I've got the chance of doing it. It's extraordinarily exciting for me because I honestly don't know what's going to happen, because I really feel that if I had to lay back on what I've done before, I'd much prefer to stop. But while I'm still wildly excited about what I do as a musician, then that's the course that I choose to take.
What is it that attracts you about jungle, apart from the fact that it's the latest thing?
Because I always love the latest dance. I mean, my approach is really quite consistent. I don't know why people think that I change all the time. I actually don't, you know, I do the same thing. I really do. I mean, I tend to, whatever it is, I kind of tend to stew it in this kind of vaudevillian-based English idea of pop music. It's rock meets pop, it's soul meets pop, it's in all its Dickie Pride tackiness. Mum, I'm 50. You still got a funny haircut.
On January 9th, 1997, at New York City's Madison Square Garden, a tribute benefit concert took place to commemorate the 50th birthday of David Bowie. Special guests included Lou Reed, Robert Smith, Sonic Youth, Foo Fighters, Billy Corgan, and more.
You take a band like Sonic Youth, I mean, he was doing atonal stuff in 1980. You know, you take The Cure, and he was doing kind of glammy pop in 72. You take me, I mean, pick your era.
I'm enjoying it so much. I'm going to do this every year. I'm going to be 50 from this point onwards. I haven't lost one iota of enthusiasm for life. I'm extremely lucky that way. I really am. It really is a blessing. As I get older, I get more and more selfish about what it is that I want to do that I find satisfying. And it's definitely how one should spend one's life is... Because, you know, if you make yourself happy, a little bit of that sunshine can spread onto others.
Still to come on, the story of David Bowie.
When somebody does like what I do, I mean, that's always, like, really rewarding, you know? You think, cool, that's really good, they really like that. That's good, I won't repeat it then.
Estás viendo la historia de David Bowie. Más allá de las palabras, más allá de los hechos, está la verdadera noticia. En el 2004, A&E Mundo sigue en busca de la verdad, al traer en exclusiva para Latinoamérica los programas periodísticos 2020, Prime Time y 60 minutos. De lunes a viernes a las 23 horas, A&E Mundo va más allá de las noticias. Tú los has visto. Has vivido sus historias. Son la gente que creías conocer. Y este año estarán más cerca de ti.
I'm totally confused.
Es Biografía. La serie original que estableció el género. Somos los primeros y con más de 15 años en la televisión.
That's okay.
Exclusiva para Latinoamérica gracias a A&E Mundo. En el 2004, nuevos personajes se unen al listado de Biografía. Y tú podrás verlos de lunes a sábado a las 21 horas por A&E Mundo. Es la única estrella con 12 nominaciones al premio de la Academia y la única en ganarla 4 veces. No es un récord, es una vida. Katharine Hepburn en Biografía. A continuación, Kate estelariza junto a su eterno amante, Spencer Tracy, el clásico del séptimo arte. Adivina quién vino a cenar. Su invitado, Sidney Poitier. A las 21 horas en Bio y Cinema, A&E Mundo. Los secretos mejor guardados por las estrellas. Ahora son puestos al descubierto con la nueva serie que en el 2004 llega a la pantalla de A&E Mundo. Desde los mejores cuidados para el cabello, pasando por una relajante sesión de masajes, hasta el asesoramiento adecuado para una noche inolvidable. Los especialistas al cuidado de las estrellas nos relatan todos los detalles. Ahora podrás recibir el mejor tratamiento de estrellas. Todos los domingos a las 20 horas por A&E Mundo. Continúa la historia de David Bowie.
Once a time, it nearly might have been. Bones and oogie on a silver screen.
When you have a legacy as amazing as David Bowie's, to some extent, I don't know how he feels about it, but there must be a sense of pride knowing that you've created so much iconic music that's touched so many people. And the truth is, like, his new record is wonderful. And David Bowie fans, like everyone I talk to is a David Bowie fan who buys Heathen, listens to it and like, wow, this is really good. You know, 30 years on, and he's still making vital, emotional, wonderful music.
With every David Bowie record, well, there's a lot of people watching to see what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
It's almost like...
You get a free Cadillac with this one. It's my amazing thing. This Columbia have come up with this idea that every album we sell will give a Cadillac away with it, which I think is an absolutely extraordinary idea. I don't know where they find the money.
With a big back catalog.
I better not say that's really true. I was going to assume, I want my Cadillac.
These are the strangest of all.
Let's talk about the artwork.
Sure.
It's very disturbing.
Yeah.
Art shouldn't be desecrated.
No, I agree.
Your own lyrics are crossed out, though.
Well, you know, the idea, it was the subtext of the word heathen. The obvious definition is someone who's not an adherent to the one God. But the other meanings are kind of range from barbarian to Philistine to iconoclast. So the idea of striking out art and negating words by putting lines through them is sort of really trying to find the full range of the word heathen, really.
These are the nights. These are the darkest of all.
Let's just quit this Foo Fighters thing and join Bowie's band. It's like, yeah, a double band.
I'd do it. That'd be really good.
Oh no, not me. We never lost control. Face to face, the man who sold the world.
Dave Grohl on the record. I'm thinking it must have been a great perfect circle for him to work with you.
Well, we worked, I mean, he came and worked with me. I enjoyed thoroughly working with him the first time at Madison Square Garden on my birthday. He did the show with me there. And he's just so collaborative. He's a very open guy. I like his presence. He's very enthusiastic, strong, curious. I like everything about him. He's a very bright spark.
Do you honestly think that Man Who Sold the World by Nirvana didn't bring anyone to the Bowie camp?
Oh,
I'm talking about a 13, 14-year-old.
I get so many kids who like commend me on covering Nirvana songs. I say, yeah, I'm cutting edge.
Well, I think Outside was probably your last concept record with a character associated with it.
Quite a few in that one, weren't there? There are about 5 or 6 characters in that one.
Is this a character?
No, not really. No, I shouldn't have done the eyes. Then it wouldn't have. Then it would just have been me, wouldn't it? It was the eyes that did it. That was a pun on Christianity. The eyes, you see. It's a really awkward and long one as well. The idea is that they're fish's eyes, and of course, fish was the symbol of the hidden Christians in in the pagan days. So that's what that's all about. But nobody actually picked up on that, so... Oh, look, it's the same eyes as the Village of the Damned. So, oh, no, he's doing bloody science fiction again. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got a lot more to do with Man Ray and Brunel, actually, I guess.
Isn't it awful when you have to explain it?
Well, I get used to it these days. People are so fucking dumb. Nobody reads anymore. Nobody goes out and looks and searches and explores the society and the culture that they were brought up in. People have attention spans of 5 seconds. And they're as much depth as a glass of water.
I don't think you get frustrated by it, otherwise you wouldn't do it anymore.
Not really, you kind of get resigned to it. Yeah. I mean, look, I've got to do it all for my own amusement, you know. I can't possibly kind of even begin to think that there's anybody out there that knows or likes what I do. So it's always a treasure when somebody does like what I do. I mean, that's always, like, really rewarding, you know. You think, cool, that's really good, they really like that. That's good, I won't repeat it then.
Still don't know what I was waiting for. Time is running wild, a million dead-end streets, and every time I thought I got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. Then I turned myself to face me, but I never caught a glimpse of how the others must see the faker. I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes. Changes. Didn't want to have to be a richer man. Changes. Changes. Just wanted to be a better man. Time may change me. I can't trace time. Change the size, but never leave the stream of warm and permanent sand. So the days float through my eyes, but still the days seem the same, just the same, quite the same. And these children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds, they're immune to your consultations. They're quite aware of what they're going through. Changes. Changes. Don't tell us to grow up and out of it. Changes. Oh, changes. Pretty soon you'll have us up in our next man. Time may change me. I can't trace time. Strange times, same days. Changes are taking place. I'm going through changes. Look out, all your rock and rollers. Changes. Pretty soon now you're gonna get older. Time may change me, but I can't trace time. I said the time may change me. I can't trace time.
That's it, thank you very much indeed.